Yes. We will be going through, our CEO is in attendance, and he will be giving us opening remarks. And then we are going to go through the available grant types. We're going to go through who is eligible to apply. We'll go through application requirements. We'll go through common application mistakes. We'll go through common due diligence issues. We'll then take questions and answers, and then we will have a system demonstration. May I introduce you to our CEO, Mr. Tamim Donza. CEO, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Numalo, and greetings to all present in the meeting. I observe all protocol. I have been given a small task of welcoming all of our stakeholders to the second briefing session of the first funding window for 2022-2023 financial year. As Ms. Numalo has said, it's the second briefing session. When we issued our advert, we did indicate in the advert itself that we would have 2 briefing sessions. The first was held on the 28th of March, and today is the second one. We also did indicate in the advert that it is not necessary for prospective applicants to attend both sessions because the content is exactly the same. So to those who may not have joined on the 28th of March, you have not missed anything, because what we are going to take you through is exactly the same as the same information that we took through those that joined on the 28th of March. We just also want to reiterate that in this funding window, we are calling upon private sector employers, those being employers that are paying the skills development levy, or those who are exempt from paying the levy. We're calling upon civil society and cooperatives that are operating in the safety and security space to submit applications for discretionary grants. So the applicants that we are targeting this time around are the private sector employers, civil society and cooperatives. And civil society come in many formations, and the details of those formations are there in the advert. So for training providers and other stakeholders, there will be funding windows that will come later on where you can submit your applications. Ms. Numalo will take us through the types of grants that are available and take us through very useful information. I must say that there is a point that Ms. Numalo always makes in these sessions of not waiting until the last minute to submit your applications. All along, I have been thinking that it is just her being cautious, but I have now personal experience having seen applications being rejected for the fact that they were received 1 minute later, like literally 1 minute later. The closing date is the 14th April at 11:59 at night. If you submit at 12 o'clock, that application is submitted outside of time and it will not be considered, even though it is literally received 1 minute later. Sometimes you would have sent your application sometimes 11:50, sometimes 11:55, but the important part is what time was it received by us. So when she does remind us to submit on time, please let us do that. It is going to be a detailed session. Please do bear with us, and the presentation that is going to be that we are going to be taken through is going to be shared. So do not worry. Do not ask for it. It will be made available. With those words, stakeholders, you are welcome. Back to you, Mr. Numalo. Thanks.
Thank you, CEO. For those who have just joined us, please do switch off your videos. Tandiwe and Mambora, please switch off your videos, and everybody else, please keep your microphone muted. It assists with the presentation to flow a lot smoother. I'm not sure if you are getting an echo feedback. I seem to be getting a little bit. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome.
Audible, thank you.
Awesome. Then we can please mute our microphones. We can tell.
Okay, were you impressed?
Technology. That's where we are at. So.
If you're better person,
Colleagues, please ensure that your microphone is muted so that we are not eavesdropping on.
They muted you again, Mr. Uma.
My colleagues like kicking me out of my own party. Okay, but thank you, colleagues. Thank you, CEO. This morning, we are going to take you through a very packed program, and I think absolutely every item on it is important and critical. And the feedback that we got from the first group is that definitely it has answered a lot of questions, and I hope you derive the same benefits out of it. There is the program, as I've indicated. I'll take you through the grants that are available, who can apply, the requirements for application, the common application mistakes so that we can avoid those pitfalls, common due diligence issues so that you can also avoid those pitfalls. Then we'll take questions, and then we'll do a system demonstration. As indicated, my name is Linda Mamalo. I look after the Grants and Projects Management Department. We move straight into the available grants, but in order for us, which is Hambisane, may I assist everyone in terms of where to find the relevant information. So if you go to your internet and you go to SASITA, okay, let me do it this old school way. You go like that, sasita.org.za. That's where you come through. And when you land, this is the banner that you are looking for. It keeps changing, but you click here to read more information. Every single document that we have added on this is published in order to assist you with making your grant application. The advert itself, it's there as number one. You download that and you look precisely what it is that we are looking for and what we do not need, etc., etc. The guidelines is the first time we're actually doing guidelines because we are wanting to assist different stakeholder types to be able to follow the discussion. The pivotal plan template is there. I will explain in detail during my presentation what that does for you. The discretionary grant policy, very important for you to use. Right at the back, we've got the amounts that are our limits, how much we pay up to. So it makes sense for you to apply using that, because if we're saying we're only paying a maximum of 10,000 and you are saying you need 15,000, already you are automatically taking yourself out of the equation. A step-by-step manual in order to take you through to the process is also attached. It's there. Please make sure that you follow it. And then there's also the list of occupations in high demand, which will assist you with the bursary application. And there's also bursary policy. If you're wanting to do the application process, you would go also on the SASITA website, you click there on login, and then everything will follow. Back to my slides. The first grant type that is available is bursaries for employed people. We have increased the amount here. It used to be 50,000. Effective Friday, it is now going to be a maximum of 55,000 rands. And for employed persons, we only cover tuition and textbooks. Very important. In this funding window, we have specified the programs that we are going to be funding. One, we're looking at security management studies. We're looking at management development programs. We're looking at executive development programs. We can look at specialist postgraduate certificates. So you've already got your bachelor's or your diploma in, for example, in HR, and now you're wanting to go into a specialist field. We'll cover that. And the reason we uploaded that list of occupations in high demand on the website, like I've just shown you, is so that you can check any other that are deemed by DHED, the Department of Higher Education and Training, as occupations in high demand. The next grant type that we have available is employed learnerships. So these are learnerships that you apply for in order for your own employees to go through, to undergo the training, and you will provide the workplace component for them. There is a funding framework according to the NQF. And after this, I'm going to pause and quickly take you through to the policy so that you can understand how to make your applications. Obviously, these being employed persons, there will be no stipends payable. We are only funding these 6 learnerships, nothing else. So if it's not one of these 6 learnerships, let's not make any application for those. The first one is what is commonly known as the GSO, whose full name is General Security Practices. And then we also have Electronic Security Installation Practices. This GSO is NQF 3, Electronic Security Installation is NQF 4, Specialist Security Services is also NQF 4. These two, the electronic installation practices and the specialist, their prerequisite is GSO. So be careful if you want to apply for either one of these 2 learnerships. You must make sure that the learners that you have identified already hold this GSO certificate. Very important. And then we've got the Paralegal Practices, which is at NQF 5. And then we are going to be looking at the OSH learnership, Occupational Health and Safety. We cover that, as well as ODET, which is the Occupationally Directed Education and Training Development Practices. This is the qualification where you will find components of the assessor training, moderator training, facilitator training, mentor training, etc., etc. Those are skills programs that are derived from this qualification. And we find that employers, because when you have learners in your workplace, for example, there must be mentors. And the mentors, if they're not properly trained in terms of supporting an NQF learner, it may provide a little bit of a challenge. The next available grant type is the same thing, learnerships, but now for unemployed people that you will be recruiting from your communities, and they will be getting the practical workplace component at your workplace, and the training component will be provided by that provider of your choice. Funding is according to the NQF framework, which I will show you shortly. The stipends we do pay for a period of 12 months, and the rate is determined by the framework. Again, there are only 6 learnerships that we are going, 6 types of learnerships that we are going to be funding for unemployed learners. They're all pretty much the same as the employed. The difference here being there's no audit, and you have your contact center learnership that is offered by the services sector. If you allow me a moment to take you through our policy and show you what the funding framework that I'm talking about, what it looks like. I'm hoping you're observing where I'm getting it. It's there on the banner that I showed you a little bit earlier. And if you open this policy, go to the end. There we go. I can make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Section 35, right at the end. So for learnerships that are on NQF levels 1 to 3, we pay up to 16,000 rands. So GSO, for argument's sake, is here. It's a level 3 qualification. Therefore, we pay 16,000. Please, on your application, do not then list any amount other than the 16,000 unless it is for unemployed learners and you're including the stipends. So if you are applying for an unemployed learner, including the stipends, let's look for a stipend at NQF level 3, we pay 2,000 rands a month. So, and we said we pay for 12 months, remember? So you say 2,000 times 12 months, that'll give you 24,000 rand, and then you add it to the 16,000 rand, then you arrive at 40,000 rand for an unemployed learner on a learnership that is NQF level 3, such as the GSO. If it is someone on the specialist learnership, you do that, that's the 18,000, and then NQF 4 stipends, we pay 3,000 a month. So you say that 3,000 times 12, which is what, 36, and you add there, what's that, 54. Then you say this grant will be 54,000 rands. So that is where you would get your funding limits. And while we are here, I'll take you through. There's also for skills programs. For skills programs, do not look at this block because we have not advertised any program that falls within this block. So it's either a 5,000, 8,000, or 12,000, depending on the NQF level. For unemployed skills programs that are 3 months and longer, and we must understand why it is 3 months. So you cannot make a 3-unit standard program to take all of 3 months in order to get to there. But we do pay 2,500 a month. And for people with disabilities, military veterans, and learners with special needs, we also do give them an additional 1,000 rand once off. So you can go through, it's a whole lot of different categories. For internships, for work integrated learning, depending on the qualification that the learner has, those are the amounts that, so if you are recruiting someone who's got a bachelor's degree, we will pay 5,000 rand a month, etc., etc., etc. Back to the presentation. I just wanted to explain what I mean when I say funding framework per NQF on these slides. The next available grant type is employed skills programs. Again, funding per framework, and very important, only one learner, only one skills program per person. We have in the past been allowing that application that says skills program 1, 2, and 3, and it has caused so many different challenges. And most importantly, we can only report this learner once, and there really are millions of people that are requiring training, and it does not make economic sense to fund any one person more than one time. So we will be funding only one skills program per person. In terms of the programs that you may apply for, we've got the adult education and training. This is usually at NQF 1. Sorry, let me just switch my video off. There we go. This is usually at NQF 1. And this is for the people, sometimes it would be people from the what do you call, the cleaners, the janitors, to assist them to obtain formal qualifications. So normally what this adult education and training covers is basic numeracy and basic literacy, just to be able to read and write and be able to do basic calculations. This qualification also exists in NQF 4, which is directed at those who want to facilitate, who want to teach people adult education and training. One skills program that is advertised is the SASITA Skills Program 5. You will find this information on the advert, what is Skills Program 5. We do demonstrate understanding of the process of community development. This one is more directed at the CBOs, such as it could be a church. In our sector, more aligned to our core business would be your CPFs, your community policing forums. They usually will find this unit standard pretty useful. Develop community participation through active citizenship. These two talk to the CBO component. Could be a CBO, an NGO, a cooperative, etc. OSH in the workplace, I need to explain that only OSH as well as First Aider, only programs that are quality assured by the Health and Welfare SETA. And please make sure that in the provider that you are using, they have both the accreditation for the full learnership, if that's what they do elsewhere. But for HW SETA specifically, each program, each provider gets approved and it gets given a code. So the fact that, for example, a provider is accredited for the OSH learnership, the full qualification, does not mean that they can actually offer this particular skills program the way it is. So please make sure that your training provider is compliant with the rules of the HW SETA who has accredited them. We also are offering only the skills program 1. So as I've mentioned, we're not doing 1, 2, and 3. So we're doing the first one, this funding window, patrol security officer, and the next one will probably be skills program 2, which I think it's access control or something to the effect. We also do offer, we will fund national key point training. Please ensure that your selected training provider for national key points has all the accreditations. There's also, in addition to the accreditation that is required, they need to be accredited by the police service, etc., etc. Just please make sure that they meet all the requirements. And the last one that you do support is the control room. The next type of grant is unemployed skills programs. This is where you identify learners who are unemployed and you give them training within your premises. They get the practical component at your workplace. Again, this is funding per framework, and again, only one program per person. We have limited the programs that can be offered to unemployed persons to only 2. One being patrol security officer, the second one being end user computing. And if you look at the advert, we have stipulated the unit standards. So please ensure that you use those unit standards, and the training provider that you are sourcing is accredited for those unit standards. The next available grant type is candidacy. This one is for our legal sector. There's 2 types of grants under candidacy. The first one is for candidate attorneys, which we fund for a period of 24 months. This is the LLB graduates, and very important, not those who are studying towards their LLB. They must have already completed and graduated they must have an LLB. It's an entry requirement. And for the 24 months while they serve their articles in order to be to become admitted attorneys. We also have pupillage, which we offer for a period of 12 months for those who are wanting to become advocates of the High Court. We pay a flat stipend rate of 7,000 Rand a month. The other type of will that we offer is internships. Internships includes all qualifications, and qualifications in this instance include metric as well. So you can take someone with a metric, particularly if they're a person living with disabilities, and expose them to a world of work for a period of 12 months, and we will pay according to their qualifications at point of entry. The last will type that is available this funding window, it's the TVET placement. For this grant, this is where you take your N6 learners from TVET colleges, and it must be public TVET colleges. You expose them to the workplace for a period of 18 months in order for them to graduate and obtain their diploma. So we cover the stipends, to provide stipends to these learners. Sorry. Let us see the next grant type that we have, and I must stress this grant type is not applied for on Indicium. I'm going to show you quickly where we have published the information. But I've just added this slide in case you know someone, an unemployed youth, that is looking for a bursary for the current academic year, so for 2022. So it must be someone who's already in university and be registered this year. We only fund at public universities and public TVET colleges. If they are at a private institution, it must only be if the program is not offered anywhere else. For example, if that person is doing a BCom at Boston, at Damelin, at Richfield, at Varsity College, etc., we will not be funding that person because a BCom is available at almost all the universities. So it must be some very unique program that is not offered anywhere else. A typical example of this would be maybe your specialist IT programs, those that are only offered by Microsoft and all of those tech specialists. The only programs that we support, it would be LLB, paralegal studies, security management, clinical social work, nursing, that is really more for the defense, pharmacy, the defense, the army, the navy, etc. They have a military hospital, so that's where we provide the nursing specifically to. Psychology, IT-related programs, as well as any other occupation listed there. I will pause there to show you where to locate this information. When you go to our website, sasita.org, as I've indicated, you land on this discretionary grant. If you scroll, you will find, okay, there's something important, anti-corruption hotline. There's also updates about Corona. You keep looking, WSP is due. You keep looking, bursaries for unemployed youth. Then you click there for the information. Those are the programs that I've indicated there to you. Now, it has its own advert, which has its own rules, which will tell you how to submit, who to submit to, when you got queries, where to submit. There's also an application form, so you download the form, you complete it, We've also published the list of occupations in high demand so that the learners can see when we say list of occupations in high demand, what is included, what is not included, as well as the bursary policy for all the information that they may need in terms of our rules, who gets to continue, because normally we fund for a full qualification, but there's conditions you must pass, and if you fail your major, you're out. If you fail more than 40% of your modules, you're out, etc., etc. So our policy is published there in order to assist with the process. And we continue. Who can apply for the grants that we have advertised? Private security companies, legal firms, and both the above must be registered under SASITA and paying skills development levies to SASITA, or being exempt from skills development under SITA 19. Maybe let me unpack this. In order for you to see which SITA you are currently registered with, so that you know when you do your EMP 201 and paying the skills development levy, where your levies go, look in your company registration documents. There is a document from SARS called an EMP 103. There it'll tell you what SITA, and it refers to all SITAs by numbers. SASITA is SITA 19. So if it says SITA 23, no, you cannot apply. If it says SITA 17, SITA 1, SITA 2, SITA 26, any other number than SITA 19, you are not eligible to apply. If you find that you are incorrectly registered with another SITA, there is an inter-SITA transfer process that must take place. It takes between 6 and 9 months between the Department of Higher Education and Training and the receiver of revenue to sort out that process. But it's in summary, there is a form. I think it's a single page. It's very short. You complete that form requesting to be transferred from an incorrect SITA to the correct SITA. They give you the reasons why you would. There's only 3 reasons that you can move. It's maybe the majority of over 60% of your revenue is generated under security services, for argument's sake, or more than 60% of your employees are there, etc. But the form is very clear and straightforward. You take that to your SITA that you are currently registered with. They will review your core business and determine that, in fact, yes, you definitely do not belong here. They sign that form. You then take the signed form, you take it to our skills planning department. They will review to confirm whether your core business is indeed with SASITA. Once they are satisfied with that, they will sign that form and then send it to DHET. DHET will then process. DHET is the Department of Higher Education and Training. They will review the form, check that everything is fine, and then they will notify the receiver of revenue. So you can't go to the receiver of revenue to change it. You must go to your SITA. Your SITA will release you, and the other SITA will accept you, and the accepting SITA will then send to DHET. DHET will make sure that everything is fine. Then they will send the instruction to the receiver of revenue. Very important, eligibility criteria. A prerequisite for the discretionary grant is that you must have submitted a WSP for the 2022 and 23 financial year. So this WSP is due on the 30th of April. So you've got a few more days to submit it. However, this particular grant that I'm talking about, the discretionary grant, closes on the 14th of April. Let me put it this way. It's best that you submit your WSP as soon as possible. But if you cannot do it by the 14th, that's fine. You will have until the 30th to submit it. And our system, it's the same system where you submit your WSP. It's also where you submit your DG application. So we will pick up that you have submitted your WSP, but it must be in by the 30th of April. So when we start the evaluation between the 15th and 30th of April, we will not be looking at this particular criteria. Then come 2nd of May, we are going to then update just that one field. Okay, submitted, 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 submitted. In terms of the Skills Development Levies Act, companies who employ less than 50 people are not compelled to submit a WSP. What you should do, what you can do as an option, is to submit a pivotal training plan, which is pretty much similar to the WSP, save for one or two things. I strongly recommend that we get into the habit of submitting the WSP annually. Every year, it's due the 30th of April. So please, if you have not submitted a WSP and will not be submitting it by the 30th of April, that pivotal training plan that I showed you on the website must be completed and submitted with this application. So to be clear, if you are submitting a pivotal training plan, you cannot submit it later on the 30th of April. You must submit it on the 14th of April with your application. I hope I'm clear about that particular one. And we have also invited CBOs in our sector. The most common type of CBO is a community policing forums. We're inviting NGOs who operate in our space, such as Soul City, for argument's sake. They deal with victims of violence. NPOs that operate in our sector, as well as cooperatives and NLPEs, it's non-levy paying entities. Those who are exempted and must. Remember, the only people who are exempted from paying a levy is if your annual payroll, not your revenue, payroll is under 500,000. Now, if you've got about, let's say, 8, maybe 10 security guards, chances are you should be paying a levy. And if you're not paying that levy, it's going to give you serious challenges. We are on a very serious journey to ensure compliance with the tax laws of this country. If you're not paying the tax, remember, it is unlawful, it is illegal, you actually are breaking the law. That's who can apply. In terms of grants that are available to the different stakeholder types, we've made this little table that will assist you, because also this year we are restricting who can apply for what, because we really do have very, very limited funding, and those who are not paying levies are not assisting the situation at all. So for private security companies and the legal sector, those who are paying levies, you may apply for any of the grants. Any of those, you can apply for bursary and. But those who are not paying levies, first you've got to make sure that you have been duly exempted, because what we're going to do is we are going to ask for confirmation of your payroll. And part of what we do at due diligence is, and I will take you through the documents that need to be ready. We ask for your EMP 201, which is the tax return that you must file with the receiver by the 7th of every month. That's where you pay for your UIF, your pay as you earn, as well as your SDL. SDL is the Skills Development Levy, and that is the money that comes to the SETA. Your UIF payment is 1% of your payroll. Your SDL is 1% of your payroll. So if you are paying 3,000 Rand a month for UIF, you should be paying 3,000 Rand a month for Skills Development Levy. If these two figures are conflicting, you are short paying someone, and I'm hoping it's not SASETA. So we are definitely looking at these. We are going to look at, are you paying the correct levy that you should be paying? And if not, we are required to report that to the taxman, and they will impose penalties, they will impose interest. They will go back to as many years as you have been in business. and that tax clearance will not be forthcoming anytime soon. So I'm just encouraging everyone to make sure that your tax affairs are in order. We are going to be checking that. So if you know that your payroll is definitely under 500,000 per annum, you can apply for only one for 2 grants in total. It's one from this group A. You can either get either apply for unemployed learnerships or employed learnerships or unemployed skills program or employed skills programs. You cannot apply for all. So let's say you want unemployed learnerships and then you take ordinary internships. So you can't take TVET or internships. You can't take TVET and internships. And very important, note that candidacy is not included for non-levy paying employers. So if you're a law firm that is not paying levies, that would be highly, highly, highly suspect, because just two attorneys' salaries will take you over the threshold of 500,000. But be that as it may, we do not offer candidacy grants to non-levy paying entities. Public institutions may apply, and by public institutions, I'm looking at those entities established by an act, such as SERA, such as the Legal Practices Council, such as the Public Protector, etc., etc. Those may apply for all of those grants. And the NPOs and CBOs and cooperatives, same criteria as the non-levy paying, and they may apply for one of the 4 programs or one of those 2 internships, one of those 2 world programs. No candidacy either. What is required in order for you to make your application? 1, it must be a valid tax clearance certificate, certificate of good standing, with that one-time PIN for the applicant and the preferred provider. Valid BE certificate for you and your provider. Company registration documents for you and your provider. Very important in the legal sector, we find a lot of those partnerships. There's a lot of partnerships and sole proprietorships. So proprietorship, we are aware that there's no legal requirement to register this with the CIPC, but we will need some form of confirmation of that this has been established for purposes of grant. And we also require partnership agreements for all of those that have those partnership structures. You will need your skills development levy number in order to apply. How do you get your skills development levy number? You go to your EMP 103 document, that is the number. You can also look at your EMP 201, which is the one you file every month before the 7th of the month. It will have those numbers. It will have your pay-as-you-earn number, your UIF number, your SDL number. In fact, you will notice that this is exactly the same number, except that the SDL starts with an L, the UIF one starts with a U, the pay-as-you-earn, I think it starts with a 7. Yeah, it starts with a 7. So that is where you're going to get your skills development levy number. And let me also assist in terms of understanding. There have been instances where SASITA had issued temporary skills development levy numbers. And this was done in good faith for people who were in the process of transferring, etc., etc. But we have found that, unfortunately, there's been a lot of abuse of that process, and we therefore are strongly discouraging going this route any further than is absolutely necessary. You will find that a company does have an SDL, and if you look at that SDL, most of them are actually registered with Services SETA, which is SETA 23, and are paying levies to SETA 23. And then they would come to SASITA with a TXV or S number, which is a fictitious number that we create for control purposes. and they will apply for grants here as well. So we are a lot stricter this time around, except for the NPOs and the CBOs and whatnot. Everyone should have a skills development levy number. If you take your UIF number, you put an L, you replace the U with an L, that becomes your skills development levy number. And if you're putting it onto our system and it says number does not exist, and you know it's a valid L number, it means you are not eligible to access the grants in any event. We will be looking for proof of payment of the levies during due diligence. If you are a private security company, we want to see your SERA registration. And if you are wanting any of those security related courses, your training provider must also have that SERA registration. If you're a law firm, we want to see your Fidelity Fund certificate, and we also want to see your Legal Practice Council registration for you. Further application requirements, we want a valid SERA for private security provider. Companies employing less than 50, I've already indicated this. You do not need, you are not required, you're not compelled in law to submit a WSP, but you must submit a pivotal training plan. As indicated before, we really strongly recommend that you submit a WSP as opposed to a pivotal training plan. You must have a valid COIT certificate or relevant public liability insurance. Remember, public liability insurance is not the same as business insurance. If you do not have a COIT certificate from the Department of Labor, apply for one, but I think it does take some time. I'm not sure. I think I've heard something like it takes 3 weeks. It takes 3 weeks or so. It might be already late for you. However, you can apply for public liability insurance in the interim. It's either for yourself or your training provider. This is to ensure that should the learners get injured at work or during the training, they will be compensated. You will also need to attach proof of accreditation and program approval for the letters, program approval letters for all training providers and for all learning programs. Those screen dumps, downloading from a CETA platform, those are not accepted. So if you are wanting to, if you want training in a particular program, remember there's no such thing as a blanket accreditation. Some CETAs will issue a certificate of accreditation, but there will always be a transcript or an approval letter or something, a list that tells you exactly what the provider is accredited for. So please ensure that when you're submitting your proof of accreditation, it's not just the certificate which doesn't tell us what they're accredited for. Make sure you get that second page that lists everything. And remember, learning programs, you can only apply for, remember where I showed those slides where learnerships, it's only 6 learnerships. For skills program, it's only a certain number. So please, please, please only apply for those. If it's not there, you may not apply for it in this financial year. Common application mistakes. We've put together this list of the reasons why a number of applications has been rejected. And you will find that the department, my department, is currently busy sending regret letters because we're wanting to be transparent. You will see why your application was rejected so that you can learn from that, fix it, and then be able to avoid the same pitfalls in the new financial year. So if you have not received a regret letter, you should get it before the end of this week. The office is busy sending those. The biggest, the leader in terms of why we do not approve applications, you find an applicant has made it all the way past all the compliance stages, only to land on GSO for an employed person and they say 20,000. When the policy has been published, with the limits. So please, let's not put amounts that are over the maximums that have been listed in the policy. You can go below, but definitely not above. You find that a lot of the applicants will give us only one BE certificate when the advert clearly says we want for yourself, the applicant, and the training provider. We also find a number of invalid BE certificates. It would be invalid, for example, if we can't read the date that it was signed, so the start date, because it's valid for a period of a year from the time that it has been commissioned. If there's no date there or we cannot see the date, that becomes invalid. If it is not properly deposed in front of a commissioner, so the commissioner has not stamped and dated and put their signature, blah, 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 it becomes invalid. It's also invalid if it has expired. Here's the golden rule. It must be valid as at the 14th of April, which is the closing date. So whenever you're applying for grants or even tenders or anything, these compliance documents must be valid as at the closing date. So if already your BE certificate has expired, go and get a new one. Do not submit that one and hope for the best. We will definitely reject that application. Also, we often receive just one tax clearance certificate and not for both sides. Please make sure it's for yourself as well as your training provider. If you are applying for a pro as yourself and there's 4 different providers that you are using for 4 different interventions, then you need to submit your tax clearance, your documents, compliance documents, and one for each of those 4 providers. So the more providers you use, the more your submission. And we have said on the advert, make sure that you scan them as one document. So you scan your BE certificate and the provider BE certificate and upload as one, and that's where we're going to pick it up, because the system will not allow you to upload more than once, or it will override. Invalid tax clearance, the OTP would have expired. Sometimes you find that people are submitting personal tax clearances instead of the business tax clearance. It's also invalid if you are ABC Security, CC, and you submit a tax clearance for ABC Security Pty Limited. Those are 2 separate legal entities. So for each, just make sure, particularly if you've got more than one company, make sure that the company that is applying, though the compliance documents that you submit belong to the company that is applying. Only one CPC or registration documents we want for yourself as well as your training provider. Very important. A number of people, I think there were 5 or 6 in the last funding window that we did, where you find that someone would be a company called maybe Qalagabusha Security. And over the years, they've decided to call themselves QB Security. But they have never gone back to inform the CIPC that this is the name change that you are wanting to do. Maybe a lot of people could not pronounce the name, or it is too long, whatever reason, but all their cars are branded QB Security, blah, 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 blah. But the legal documents still refer to them as Qalagabusha. Now you'll find that they will supply, for example, a BE affidavit that says QB Security, and you supply us with CPC documents that don't mention QB Security. Those are 2 different entities, and that application will not go through. You might think it's small little issues, but in law, those are fundamentally 2 different entities, and we need to know who we're doing business with. If it's QB Security, then we want QB Security to be duly registered. That's actually what I've just been talking about. You find that on the CPC documents, it doesn't mention anything about QB Security. What we have done is we have given some lenience to those who maybe they haven't updated a CIPC, but on their tax clearance, it shows both names, because we know that the receiver will not add the other name without due process. And also with with SERA or with LPC, we respect that our counterparts would have done their due diligence in terms of adding those names. So if one of these three authorities does recognize the name as trading as a name, then we're fine. Then we're fine. But we will remind you to go and update your CIPC, because these things become an issue. And a big one, no skills development levy number. I am pleading with everyone, please locate your skills development levy number. As I mentioned, it is first issued when you get your EMP 103 from the receiver of revenue. That's where you get that levy number. It must start with an L and it's 9 digits long. If you cannot locate your EMP 103, because that's probably been many years ago when you first established your company, look at your EMP 201. On your EMP 201 that you file every month, you pay for your pay as you earn, SDL, and your UIF. That number will be there. It starts with an L under next to where it says skills development levy. So very important. That's where you get that. And if it's not there, well, it should be there. It means probably you are not paying levies, because some entities would, at the point when they registered their payroll 10, 15 years ago, was less than 500,000. But as the company has grown, they have not gone back to say to the receiver, hey, now my payroll is 800,000 per annum, so that they can issue you with that number. But it's fine if you drop the U on the UIF number, replace it with an L, that is your skills development levy number. More common mistakes, only one SERA certificate, an invalid fidelity fund certificate. What makes it invalid? Two things primarily. These certificates expire on the 31st of December every year. So right now, the one that you should be attaching must expire 31 December 2022. So if it says it's expired 31 December 2021, that is invalid. And also, this fidelity fund certificate, at the bottom, it will list the firms that that person's fidelity fund certificate is linked to. So if that law firm that you're applying for is not listed, it becomes invalid. Please keep your microphones muted, please, please, please. If you have not submitted a WSP by the 30th of April, or did not submit a training plan by the 14th of April, your application will not be considered. If there's no COIDA or public insurance, public liability insurance to be precise, that will not be considered. If there's no transcript listing the unit standard and programs on the letters of accreditation or certificates of accreditation, that will not assist. Invalid COIDA is a COIDA that has expired, and majority of them, they will expire on the 30th of April, so they should be fine. Or if it is not in the name of the company that has applied, remember the example where I made where it's ABC Security Pty Ltd and ABC Security CC. Those are two separate legal entities. So please be sure that all the names are consistent. Business insurance is not valid. It is not public liability insurance. Invalid accreditation would be accreditation that has expired primarily, or accreditation of someone else other than the provider. So if you say ABC Training is going to offer training, and then you give us DEF Training, a proof of accreditation. Those two don't match, and therefore you would not be able to go through. Very common one, not registered with SETA 19. As I've indicated, we are very, very constrained in terms of levies that do come through. If you look at the number of companies that are not complying with paying the SDL, it's shocking. And when you look at those who are paying, but are paying a lot less than they pay for UIF, you will actually realize that this SETA should be having a lot more in terms of levy income. So we are very, very restricting in terms of giving out AMA grants. We are giving to those who are paying, and those who are not paying should be legitimate exemptions. Then there's common, tips to help you improve your compliance. On your application, remember, your application can only be made online. So do not email, do not try to physically drop off. The only way you can apply is online, as we are going to show you. Follow the user manual line by line. You often find that people will call being frantic, but they've skipped one step, and then the rest of the manual does not make sense. Please fill in all the fields. We often find, not often, but we do find instances where information is not supplied. Now, I need us to understand that the evaluation process of pharma DGs, we follow the tender evaluation process. So it's not like you get a second opportunity to submit information that wasn't there. So if you submit your application and it doesn't give us the information that we need, no one is going to call you or send you an email and ask you about that information. It will be non-compliant and it will be rejected. So it's very, very important. The fields that we've put in there are fields that talk to some element of either the evaluation process, or it helps us to comply with the requirements of the Auditor General and all the other principals to whom we report. Personally, I print the advert and use it as a checklist. When submitting anything for that matter, I literally tick, if it's a sentence, I will break it into two if it talks to two requirements. And once it's done, I'll say, yep, that is done. Sometimes if I get the document in an editable format, even if you download it in PDF and open it using your Word browser, your Word, Microsoft Word, you actually can edit the document and then just create a checklist, tick, 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 tick. If any of the compulsory requirements are not there, you will not get through. And here's another tip. Gather all the documents today. Upload them onto your computer and save them before you start the application. Look at the advert. It tells you, all the documents that are going to be required. Follow the instructions to the T. So it'll tell you your BE certificates with your provider, scan them as one document, and then save them in your computer as BE document, and make sure that you label them correctly. As we have begun the process of sending the regret letters, we found probably 4 or 5 people that were hysterical. No, I submitted. I have checked on the system. It's there. I'm like, okay, please open the document. When they open the document, they realize that one person, it was actually a utility bill. They just mislabeled it. And when they uploaded the document, they did not check the document that A, it's the correct document, B, it's the valid document. Particularly in the second funding window, we had a lot of people who supplied us with accreditation that has expired. Meanwhile, they do have valid accreditation, but in terms of how they saved the documents on their computer, they did not identify that this accreditation is the one that is now valid from, say, August 2021. They would give us the one that expired in July 2021. So we know because we offer the accreditation ourselves, but we can't help you. If you are, we can know that you are accredited, you have many projects with us, but if you are attaching the incorrect document, we have to evaluate you based on the incorrect document. So please gather all these documents. The training providers who operate in our sector, they are very conversant with the process. They will provide you with all the compliance documents. So gather them before you start your application. And here is something that would really make my team's life significantly easier. When you are attaching your proof of accreditation, sometimes those letters can be 19 pages long, can be 21 pages, can be 10 pages long, and we have to comb through each one for every single unit standard. So we are requesting your assistance. Please, either on the hard copy, highlight all the unit standards that, so if you're applying for this skills program that's got these 5 unit standards, highlight those 5 unit standards to assist us to make the evaluation process move quicker. Or you can upload it or download it for however format you have it, and you can highlight on the PDF document on the computer, but that would really assist us greatly. On how to improve your compliance, please double check expiry dates on all documents. The expiry date cannot be before 14 April. If it's before 14 April, that document is invalid. Please go back and get the correct updated documents. There we go. As the CEO was saying, I always stress, do not wait until the closing date. And I've said, as I've said to the previous group, life happens. You may intend to submit your application on the 13th. You think, 13th, I'm going to be on the safe side. Then there's load shedding in your area and you can't submit. Or, heaven forbid, a relative passes away, or someone close to you is ill, or you get involved in a car accident, or whatever the reasons, because we will not give extensions at all. It's just not something that we do at SASITA. And to accommodate everyone, we have actually, we are only required to open a funding window for 21 days. This one, we've opened it for a lot longer. I think we've added a week to it, if not more, so that all of the things that could possibly happen can be covered. In fact, come midnight, the system will shut you out. You will not be able to submit. And also what happens when everyone logs in at the same time, although we've got sufficient space and capacity to handle a number of users at the same time, you cannot rule out the possibility of some technical glitch. And very importantly, on the closing date, we still close at 4 o'clock. The system will open till midnight, and there will be nobody to assist you after hours. And when you are trying to call, you must understand that each call takes a few minutes to actually resolve. And you might not even get through. You might be on hold while we are assisting other people, and you are not able to get through. Life happens. If you can submit today, submit today. If you can submit tomorrow, submit tomorrow. Anything after the 10th, we are pushing it. So I really am encouraging you, please submit your application as soon as possible. If after you have submitted, you realize there's something that maybe you realize you didn't do correctly, you can go to your application and make it, I'll call it unsubmitted. Unsubmitted, fix what you need to fix, and then resubmit. But if you do this close to midnight and you can't resubmit because midnight has come, you can't say, I had already submitted it. So the status is at midnight must be submitted. Be familiar with the funding framework. Know exactly how much we pay for each intervention, and your life will be easy. Very important. myself and my team, including the support team at Solid Growth, we cannot submit an application on your behalf. We cannot amend your application. Do not ask. We can't. Not only because the system has been restricted, but also it is unethical, and also because we will not be accepting any responsibility for applications submitted or not submitted and the contents thereof. So with all the support that we provide, you will find that a lot of the time, even when you send us an email, it will refer you to the manual, because a lot of the times people, the easiest thing is to like, I can't get through this, like, okay, here is the manual, but the application process from end to end will take you about 45 minutes. And we obviously cannot stay 45 minutes with every single one. I only have 2 people in the department as grant support, as well as the people at the call center, but that will be limited. So rely on the manual a lot. Go back to these slides. You will find that actually it's a very approachable system. And there have been those who have even been able to submit without actually having going through the manual. Just the steps are logical, let me put it that way. As I've indicated, there will be no extensions. It could have been your spouse died, your child died, you were in a horrific accident, you were in a coma, there was load shedding, they stole your laptop, they jammed your car, you were hijacked. Any life eventualities, there will not be any extensions. Hence, we are open for, this advert has been up and running for, what, is it 3 weeks now? There's been ample time, and between now and closing date, there's still another 10 days. Please submit now. Now, once your application has gone through the compliance stage, we then evaluate the programs and we make our recommendations for award. Then we conduct what is called a due diligence, where we go and we validate and verify the information that you have submitted, and then we look at additional information that we did not ask for during the application. So in the guidelines, we have made this list for you. Please make sure you go through the guidelines, because these are documents that you must have readily available. So the fact that you are not asking them for them on the 14th of April does not mean start gathering them after the 14th of April. So for each unit standard and learnership, you must have as a registered assessors, registered moderator. The facilitator, we will ask for their CV and proof of qualifications. For example, they cannot facilitate each GSO if they don't have the GSO qualification themselves. Same principle as normal studies. If you don't have a bachelor's degree, you cannot teach people how to get a bachelor's degree. So we also will check that. Proof of financial viability. In this instance, we want some assurance that the money, when we pay it into your account, will not be used, for example, to cover your operating costs, to not pay for electricity and for whatnot. We need to know that you're a going concern, and a letter from your auditor will suffice, or any form that is generally accepted. We will look into that. Proof of payment of SDL for the past 6 months. So we're going to look for your EMP 201 forms together with proof of payment. And I'm going to really plead with you colleagues that if you know that you are not paying the SDL and you should, perhaps rather not apply. Because once we go through this process and we find that you should be paying and are not paying, we will report the matter to the receiver, and it's going to have serious consequences. So rather fix your tax affairs, and then you will apply in the next grant cycle. We will need a proof of compliance with OSH requirements and regulations. Things like you must have a fire extinguisher. Currently, you need to have sanitizers and whatnot at the door. The rooms must be properly ventilated. You must have flushing toilets or toilets that are in a working condition, etc. We will do a physical inspection of the premises to ensure, for example, if you are getting interns, an intern is supposed to have a workstation, so there should be a desk with all the tools of trade, your computer. They can have access to a phone. It doesn't necessarily mean that everyone must have a phone on their desk, but we want to make sure that when we give you funding to host the learners, the working conditions meet minimum requirements. So those who are working in makeshift offices, no, we will not be granting any of those grants. So let's just make sure that all of these things are in place, as well as the availability of mentors, particularly for learners, those who are still in the learning process. So when they do the practical workplace component, there must be somebody that is going to guide them and show them how it is done. So they do not necessarily come into your workplace and become independent, do not require supervision type of people. Even if they are graduates, someone still needs to show them how to do the basics. And when they get stuck, they need someone that can help them get unstuck. Please mute yourselves. Further common due diligence issues is ill preparedness for the due diligence. That's why this time around we've given you the guidelines to say these are the documents that we're going to be needing. Please make sure that those are there, because generally due diligence is done at relatively short notice. We will send you an email and you will get a call to say, hey, we will be conducting these. We're coming there in 3 days' time. Please have these documents readily available. Even if you personally will not necessarily be there, but the documents must be there and there must be someone who can answer basic questions. Invalid documents, you find that the documents have expired or belong to other entities. Some of these issues may escape the compliance stage, but when we get in there, we find, for example, assessor registration has expired. Yes, you have it, but it has expired. And these must be current as at the time of due diligence. So if you close on the 14th of April and you do the due diligence in June, those documents must be available, must be valid, because if we approve, those learners should be able to start. They can't if the documents are invalid. Evidence is not documented and readily available. Some of the things, I remember one provider that we went to do due diligence for was for an end user computing program, and we required proof of the computers or laptops that will be used in order to train the learners. Whereas they do have the computers, there was no evidence. It was at another place. They could not video that to us, to show us. There was no asset register. There was just nothing. So please make sure that these are available in this evidence. If there's no proof that you are paying levies and that you have been duly exempted, will also lead to non-award. There's also the tax evasion. I've spoken ad nauseum about this. Deliberate underpayment of SDL, where you say my payroll is 800,000 when it is in fact 1.2 million, because 1% of 800,000 is less than 1.2. We will be reporting those matters to the taxman. Tax avoidance, that's when that's also you understate your payroll. Sorry, I'm mixing the two up. The other one is if you just underpay without saying that my payroll is X amount. To avoid all of this, amount you pay for UIF must be the same amount you're paying for SDL. There may be one or two circumstances where these might not necessarily be the same, but they should not be one is 300 and another one is 5,000. They cannot be that far apart. Non-compliance to OSH, we found a lot of places without little things like fire extinguishers, or the fire extinguishers are there, they have not been serviced as they are supposed to. So these are all the little things that we do check for. There's no emergency exits, there's no flushing toilets, there's no basic occupational health and safety requirements have not been adhered to. In some instances, we find that a company has 10 people and they want to host another 10. And you go there, how? Where are these 10 people going to sit? There's no space, or there's no one that's going to host them. You find in the 10 employees that they have, 2 are cleaners, 1 is a driver, where maybe 3 are security guards and the other 3 are in management. There's only about 3 people that can mentor, but you're looking at the number that you are applying for. So we do check all of those. So we don't just say, okay, you've got 10 employees. 10 employees doing what? We come in and we check who can support the learners. No capacity to train. That's when, for example, we have found some training providers. When we go there, we find that they do not have training material. They do not have learner guides. They do not have any registered assessors. The registered assessor that they have given to us is no longer working with them. That is all rounded down to limited or no capacity to train. Very important for all the security programs, which is your GSO, your specialist in electronic installation. You must have sites, as in there's a contract, you are guarding, say, a shopping center, a school, a hospital, or whatnot, where the learners are going to be getting practical training. A number of people, particularly in this last year, we had made recommendations to award, but come due diligence, we find that everyone is just office-based. Obviously, you cannot learn to become a security guard, being office-based. They must be on the field and getting practical workplace experience. So please make sure that if you want to have GSO specialist learners, you must have contracts that are currently underway and will be valid for the full 12-month period of the learnership. Unsuitable premises. We really have come across some that are not so very clean. There's no sufficient ventilation. We get that a lot, particularly now with COVID. We are a lot more stricter that, there must be proper ventilation, etc., etc. Oh, lovely. We have got to this part where I am going to pause. There's 2 ways that you can get support if the manual is not assisting. We have a specific email address that we have set up for this particular funding window, DG 2020-22 funding window 1 at sasita.org.za, or you can call through the call center. They will assist you, and if they cannot, they will transfer your call to us or will send us an email to go through, and we will respond to you. May I request that we take a comfort break? It is now 10:35 and resume at 10:45. Just 10 minutes for me to rest my vocals and for you to maybe catch a smoke, stretch your legs, put together your questions, and then I'm going to take questions. And after that, mute yourselves, please. We'll take questions and we will show you, we'll have a live system demonstration. Thank you. We will resume at 10:45.
Hello? Do we still have a meeting? Hello?
Yo, I don't know what's happening. I also don't have audio, so I'm guessing so.
A break, guys.
It's a
No,
break.
I think I have a problem with the network. Hello?
We are on
We are on a break
Okay, thank you. Noted.
to be resumed
Okay.
45.
And we are back on. Lerato, please switch your video off. Lerato and Silega, please switch your video off. Lerato, please switch your video off. If you look at the top right-hand corner where you've got the leave button, there's a share, there's a mic. If you click on the camera, you will remove that.
Yeah, I had to switch off the mic.
Lerato, are you with us, Lerato? Thokozani. Thokozani Chabalala. Switch your video off. Cool. Colleagues, it is advisable to switch off your video in this digital era. A lot happens. A lot happens. Okay, here is how we are going to do this. I'm going to go through the questions that have been posted on the chat box. There's two ways you can ask questions. One, you can put your hand up. I'm going to take a round of questions after I've dealt with this, or you can type your question in your chat box, whichever you are more comfortable with. Switch my video off as well. Although I am your host, I will switch it off so that I can focus on the questions. Going to write, it's the beginning. Okay. Carissa, okay, everyone we can hear. No, morning, everyone. Thank you, Adele. Adele had posted guidance on the chat box in terms of how to switch off your video. There we go, and you let's see your camera. Carissa, and there's your email address. Good morning. Bernadine Doe, good morning. Can we apply for the Senior Management Development Program? If you mean under bursaries, yes. Under employed bursaries, yes. If that's not what you mean, please just clarify. But it will fall between either your Management Development Program or your Executive. Executive is also sometimes called the Senior Management Development Program. Thank you, CEO. I see he was assisting in the main. Ulerato is just refusing to switch her video off today. It's her day today. Please share the slides on email. What we're going to do, the slides will be published on the website. You can download them, and we won't be able to email just now. We may miss one or two people. To make sure it's going to be uploaded in the same place where you found the advert. So if you go onto our website and you land on the home page, there we go. You click here to read more, and you will see these documents. So you will see the slides will also be added here at the bottom. And the marketing team is going to do that this afternoon, so you can check back later. Lerato, they've been asking again. Can see presentation. I hope you managed to come right. Yes, log out. Thank you, team that's been assisting. You can see, you will refer back. Yeah, the slides will be published on the website. Tracy wants to know, if you're a new company and you have employees under 50, do you qualify to create a... Yes, you may submit. I think that is the short answer. Yes, you may submit a WSP. We recommend it. Johan Schoolman, with the slides and recording, that will be published on the website. I'm not sure if we will publish the recording. Remember, if you were not in attendance, you will not be able to hear it, so you can't forward that. Nzuku, are you here? Are you able to confirm if we'll be able to publish the recording? Where's my colleague?
He just stepped out of his desk, Linda.
Okay, is that Ivy? Yes.
Yeah, but
Okay. Please just get us that confirmation when he returns. Thank you, just to see if that'll be published. Let us continue with our questions. Yes, thanks, Ivy. I see you were also assisting with the team. Thank you, Emate. Where can we get the Fidelity Fund certificate? The Fidelity Fund certificate is only for the legal companies. I know you from Fidelity Security. For security companies, we need the SIRA certificates. For law firms, we require the Fidelity Fund certificate, which is issued by the Legal Practices Council. So it does not apply to Fidelity Security. Johan Skuman, okay, wanted to leave for a meeting. Having uploaded the documents, can one remove them and replace them with highlighted skills program? Yes, you can. We'll see when we are doing the system demonstration. Adele, please just note this particular question. If someone has uploaded the documents, how do they replace them? And then it says system requires declaration of interest. No, we do not require the SBD4. I think it's just the tick boxes. We will be reminded when we go through that particular, but I specifically do not require SBD4 for this, for discretionary grants. Graydon Williams for the application requirements for the director tax clearance certificate as well as for the company. Graydon Williams, please just put your hand up and we can have a conversation. I'm not quite following the question. Norma was excusing herself. Dimpo guest on the indicium, there's a space that, okay. On the screen that you're talking about, Dimpo, you don't need to enter all the fields. So just enter your levy number or your company name. The application number, you would only have it if you have started the application, for example, today, and then you come back tomorrow and you want to complete, because then the system would have given you the application number. So those fields, it's not for you to fill all. And for the rest of the colleagues, we will, I will tell you exactly when we're demonstrating what Udimpo is talking about. Rosa Manuel, please download the slides on the website. We will not be emailing them. Yes, Graydon, I think you came back when we were at break. Yes, thank you. Mozilla Jennifer, kindly explain the difference between an employer and a training provider. Very important question, Jennifer. For purposes of discretionary grant, I'm not going to go to the basic English difference. Those whose core business is provision of security services, or your core business is provision of legal services, you're an employer. If your core business is training, whether you are training in the security sector or any other any other field, then you are a training provider. So the core business determines who you are. And it's a very important question for our sector in particular, because I know that a lot of, particularly in the private security space, they are employers who are also accredited. So when you are making your application, please make sure you don't say you're a training provider, because this funding window is not for training providers. The next funding window will be the one that is for training providers. So everyone in the room who is a training provider, this is not the funding window for you. If your core business is provision of training services, this is not your funding window. And to Henriette Bradbury, I noticed that there is a registration number for moderator and assessor. If you host a learner and you have an external training provider who will be the moderator and assessor, the training provider is your answer, Henriette. The training providers, assessor and moderator are required. Hi, do you send feedback for the non-pivotal applications we sent previously? Yes, that was actually finalized just on Thursday. We are busy with the paperwork to get the responses. I think we've drafted the reports. The letters, as I indicated earlier, hopefully by the end of this week, most of the letters will be out for funding window 1, 2, and 4. For the non-pivotal, you might get them next week still. But yes, we are giving feedback. What if you apply for MG or DG as an accredited training provider? I do not have sites. How do you accommodate the training provider to participate in the process? Yeah, I think if you are an accredited training provider, this is not the window for you. And if I'm misunderstanding you, Darius, please put your hand up. Antoinette, can you still submit the WSP even if I have missed the deadline for last year? If you're a company that is employing 50 and above and you did not submit, then you've missed the boat. If you are a small company, yeah, I think you would have missed the boat as well, because the ones who attended the earlier briefing session, they were still able to do so. Our financial year ended on the 31st of March last Thursday, so you would be late for that. Morning, we have SASITA registered learnerships for 2 disabled learners. Does this qualify for DG application under unemployed learnerships? Also have a bursary that we grant to a UCT student for 3 years. That includes something we can apply for under unemployed group. Tanya Rodman, let's take your 2 questions. One, we have 2 learnerships. Does it qualify under unemployed learnerships? Yes, it does. However, for the discretionary grants, we do prefer that training only starts after we have granted the approval. So if the learnerships have already started, you might have a challenge there. Particularly also because this training that you are looking for, it could only have commenced on Friday. So if it started before Friday, it would not be eligible in any event. But if it started Friday or today, we possibly might look into it, particularly because it's for people with disabilities. You've got a bursary that you grant to a UCT student. I would encourage that the student apply under the unemployed bursaries. We do not have employers apply for unemployed grants. I'll take the last one and then I'm going to take a round of hands. If we hosted TVET learners funded by another CETA, may we put them on an unemployed learnership? Not concurrently, even though they are funded elsewhere. They need to first finish their 18 months because that is still learning. Shining Star, please switch your video off. They would still need to finish their TVET component. Then afterwards, because also remember they are learning, both of these are learning interventions, it would not be advisable to overload the learners to that extent. And then Refilo will be the last question I take. In order to apply, do you need to register SCF profile? Or can you apply as, okay, we were going to cover that shortly. I'm going to take a round of questions. I'll take these 4 questions and then we will come back to the written questions. Kumalo Spelele, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Morning to everyone. My name is Paralegal Practices from Boland College, but I want to ask a question about bursaries for unemployed learners. So my question is regarding the requirements in particular, but they're both about the same thing or around the same thing, which is parent or guardian. So let's say, let me just give a practical scenario, and then you can answer maybe based on that. If, let's say, for instance, there is a learner registered at a TVET college who is not a TVET college, but a university. So the learner is self-sufficient, meaning they don't really rely on their parents or guardian. So they are self-sufficient. However, they would like to apply for this bursary, because I see there on the document application, on the application document, it is, according to my understanding, a prerequisite that they provide proof of income for parents or guardian, and also parent or guardian ID. If a person opts to, let's say, write an affidavit as opposed to handing over these documents, will that person be disqualified based on not meeting the prerequisite?
Okay. Let me understand. When you're saying they are self-sufficient, how are they self-sufficient?
Let's say, for instance, they have informal or some form of informal way of making money. So they managed to get registration. So they registered UNISA and they sell maybe fruits on the streets. They don't necessarily classify as employed, according to my understanding, but they don't rely on their parents. So that's the self-sufficient part. So the person is old, maybe they are 30 years old, for instance.
Okay, so I think the slight technicality on this one is the fact that we are trying to fit a square in a circle. The bursaries themselves are for people who are unemployed, and this person is not quite employed, but they're not unemployed either. So we're going to have to try and fit something in between. My recommendation would be get the person to do an affidavit at the police station or wherever they can do an affidavit stating, so instead of attaching proof of ID for the parents, they will say, I am an adult, blah, 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 and I sell fruits, da, 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 da. I am not dependent on any, therefore these documents are not attached. So just put an affidavit that will explain what you are indicating. That way it doesn't look like the compliance requirements haven't been met, and we'll take it to the committee for consideration. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Awesome, thank you. Please mute yourself. Figani Kubisa, please ask your question. Unmute your mic and ask your question. Kubisa, Figani. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, they are struggling for now. I'll move to Thokozani Shabalala. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Msheng. Are we still there, colleagues? Okay, I see Thokozani, something is coming up. Please unmute yourself. Thokozani. Okay, his hand has gone down. Graydon Williams, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, sorry. Hello, Linda.
Yes, Thokozani, you may ask your question.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Sorry
Please
for the
go
background.
ahead and ask your question.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to ask something. On the advert, it is written that also non-profit organizations are given an opportunity through, or maybe it is for another window. Because
Sorry, I can't hear you properly, sir.
To ask a question that at the end of non-profit organization number. Hello.
Tozani, your audio is very bad. I did not hear any of what you said. Let's try again, failing which I'm going to ask you to type your question. Please start afresh. We're not going to win, sir. Tozani. Sorry, Togozani, please type your question. I cannot hear you. Please type your question. Your audio is very bad. Please type your question. We cannot get through. The last one from this round, Strike, please ask your question. Unmute yourself and ask your question. Strike. Okay, we're not winning. I'll take Nomatweshu Incorporated. Please unmute yourself. Okay, we're not winning. I'll take the written questions.
Hello. Good morning.
Yebo.
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
All right, and yourself?
I'm good. I'm sorry, ma'am, if I'm asking you a question that will take you back. But I want to know briefly if who qualifies to apply for the funding. For example, I'm running a law firm and I'm having students who are currently doing a LLB degree with UNISA, and they're doing some critical training in my law firm. Do they qualify, and what are the requirements?
Yeah, that will take us back quite significantly, ma'am. I'm going to publish the slides on the system. There's different nuances to what you're saying. If these are current students, it depends what it is that they're doing at your firm. Are you giving them ordinary internships? Then you can apply for internships for a period of 12 months. If they are wanting to serve articles, they must have already obtained their qualification. So it's a different requirements for different things. I'm going to those are clearly articulated on the slides and the advert itself. The advert itself is going to show you quite clearly, and it would be yourself that is applying and not the learners. So for now, may we leave it at that. If we can have a one-on-one chat afterwards, if after the slides that is not assisting you. Let me, well, I can't even project them because I'm taking the questions, but I'll go back and project them after I'm done here. In order to apply, refuel, I think we had taken, that was the last one. Dube Inc., if I pay in SITA 1 and I need to change to SITA 19, will I qualify for the funding? At the absolute very least, we would need the IST form, which is the inter-SITA transfer form, to be signed by that SITA 1 and the skills planning department. Then you upload that document under other. Technically, the answer is no. Strictly speaking, the answer is no. The regulations say if you are in this inter-SITA transfer process, SETA 1 is legally obliged to assist you with funding. So SETA 1 must provide you with funding so you submit your WSP to SETA 1, they will give you a 20% back, and you are eligible to apply for the discretionary grants until such time as the inter-SETA transfer process has been finalized, which I indicated takes 6 to 9 months. Once it is finalized and the levies you've paid to SETA 1 have been transferred by SETA 1 to us, until then, SETA 1 is responsible for your training requirements. Rosa Manuel, we are accredited with MICT for end user. However, we don't pay levies to SETA. Can we apply? The short answer is no. Togozani Shabalala, hi Linda, we're an NPO and tax exempted with a PBO number and we're less than 50. Do we qualify for 18.2 unemployed youth development? In what? Yes, you can, but unemployed youth development, are you developing them via skills programs? Are you developing them via learnerships? If it's either of the two, yes. Lerado, where do we get the application forms for provider and employer? As indicated, there are no application forms. You apply online, as we are going to show you shortly. CEO, we note that apology and thank you for the support. He'd already been through one before. He didn't need to sit for this one. Thank you so much, colleagues. Strike, morning, as a private institution, are we allowed to allow learners to apply for the bursaries who did not qualify at the public institutions, and what must they do because it's only categorized for public only? Strike, our mandate is to strengthen the public training institutions and support the learners that go through there. It is an unfortunate reality that some students maybe do not meet the minimum requirements, or they apply too late and they can't get into a public university. And those are really unfortunate, and it's not anything that we can assist with. So as I've made an example when presenting, if for argument's sake, this is a student that is doing a BCom at a Boston, Damelin, Varsity College, Richfield, Regenesis, and all these private institutions, we will not be funding those because the BCom is available at a public institution. So unfortunately, we're sorry about that. When is the closing date for everything? It's the 14th of April, Brian. Rosa, when is the next funding window? At this point in time, we do not know when that window will be opened. We are prioritizing this one for now, but please, at least from 2 weeks from today, start making a weekly trip to our website to see if there's any information that is, there is no date that has been scheduled as yet. We try to do one window at a time so that we can respond to those. Henriette, will I be able to use accreditation number of the training provider as the moderator? Yes, you can use of the training provider. Strike, hi, do we give learners the acceptance letters as private institutions? Yeah, as private institutions, I'm afraid we can't assist unless the program that you are offering is not offered at any public institution. In order to apply, do you need to register with SETA, or is it fine if we're accredited with QCCO? We're talking about accreditation. I'm imagining you're a training provider, Refiwe, in which case you are not eligible to apply in this window. Strike has been very busy. If a private institution is registered with SETA, can you help learners? The answer is still no, unfortunately. And yet, when will you receive outcome of this grant? I cannot put my neck on the block, but we are definitely looking at hopefully by the end of June. Officially, it's 90 days from the closing date. Maybe let's stick to that. 90 days from the closing date. Rosa, it's from Campus School requesting to be excused. Thank you, Deborah. Grayson just discovered that your computer do not have a microphone. Okay, please text a question. Nobushe, I hope you are hearing us. I think the others are still hearing me. Is everyone still hearing me? Just do a thumbs up if you can hear me. I'm not talking to myself, am I? Okay, I saw a hand up. Okay, I'm looking just for that little thumbs up. Okay, fine. I'm assuming that is to say you can hear me. Thank you. Rose, what do you do as a training provider when the amount allocated is not enough for the expenses? I cannot help you with that. Yeah, no, I cannot assist you with that. Gogo security and maintenance. Hi, we're private security. Do you qualify for unemployed skills programs? We have more than 50. If you meet all the requirements that I've taken us through, so it's not just being a security company, you must be paying levies, you must be registered, blah, 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 blah. All of those, yes, you may. Thanks, Naledi. Oh, hi, Naledi, from our call center, confirming that you can hear, and Delane and Shalene, we're also doing that. I'm back to taking questions. Nomatseshu, is it an old hand, or you've got a new question, ma'am?
No, ma'am, I believe it's an old hand. My apologies for that.
Thank you. Rosa Manuel, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi.
Mm-hmm.
And no, my question was basically the two that you had asked, because my main thing was, okay, we are accredited with MIC CETA to provide training for end user computing level 3, but we were not accredited. We don't pay levy to SAS CETA. So I just wanted clarity on that. Can we apply, because we are a company that has less than 50 staff? So I just wanted clarity on that as well. And with the follow-up question that I had asked with regards to if you feel, say for instance, you hosting disabled learners, they are usually more expensive. I don't want to say more expensive, but they require more attention and a lot of just stuff to cater for them. So that's why I just wanted clarity on that, because if I'm not mistaken, the amount allocated for disabled learners was 16,000, if I'm not mistaken, because it's an end user computing level 3. So I just wanted clarity on that, but otherwise you've really just touched on everything. So thank you for that. I have more clarity now.
Thank you. In terms of the first question, if you're a training provider, you talk about being accredited. No, this is not the window for you, so you cannot apply for any of the grants. In terms of people with disabilities, in the policy, we do make provision that we do pay a little bit extra. On learnerships, I think it's an extra 3,000. On stipends, I think there is also 8,000 rand once off, etc. But go to our discretionary grant policy that is published. Right at the end, you will note the provisions that we make for people living with disabilities.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, my last question. With the LMS, because now I see that the work I had done was basically useless, because I was just applying because it's my first time also on the system, and the LMS was not that friendly. And just for the next window, like sometimes when you call SAS CETA, it takes it can literally take you the whole day just to get to someone to assist you and stuff like that. But I was assisted by one of the ladies. So I just wanted, I think you did touch on it actually also on the LMS, and how, for me as a first user, it was just, a lot was a bit confusing. Like you would register, I was trying to register our SDF and it kept telling me to go back. So I wasn't sure if it was a technical issue or it's just that maybe it was the first time that I was doing it.
We're going to do a system demonstration in the next minute. And if your questions still exist, then we will handle that. But it's going to assist you to understand end to end.
Thank you.
Awesome. I am going to Adele. Are we ready? We are moving into the system demonstration. You can put your hand down, Rosa. Adele?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Adele. Before I continue, can I just maybe hear if I'm audible? Can you all hear me?
Perfectly fine.
Thank you very much. I'm also going to start sharing my screen.
Thank you.
When you can see my screen.
We'll let you know. Colleagues, Adele is a service provider to the CETA. The company name is Soligrowth, and they have developed Indicium, and they do the maintenance of Indicium, and they are going to assist us with the demonstration, and we can ask the questions that we are having. Because I am not physically presenting, I will be talking to what Adele is going to be presenting. You can type your questions quickly in the chat box if there's a moment where you want us to spend a little bit of time. Please feel free to do so. Refilwe Taje, can training providers apply for discretionary grants? No, only employers. Adele, we're ready for you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, once again. So currently, how to access the system? In your URL, you need to type in www.sascita.org.za. The following screen will display, and this is all familiar with regards to the SASCITA website. You will see that on the dashboard, there is a stakeholder system login. Please go and click on that link, and then you will be navigated to the following screen. Can you all see? Is it all big enough, or maybe I can enlarge
make it slightly bigger if you can, Adele?
Yes, I can. There you go. So, colleagues, please remember that this countdown is related to mandatory grants. Currently, there are two windows open. The one for mandatory grants, which is ending the 30th of April at midnight. And the applicable grant that I'm going to demonstrate now is with regards to the discretionary grant window. If you have missed it, the closing for the window for the discretionary grant is on 14 April at midnight. So please, as also emphasized, please start as soon as possible because time do fly and you only have 10 days left for your application. So for those who are doing the first time registration, kindly take note of the hyperlink. Register as a new discretionary grant applicant. If you have already registered as an SDF, you are not automatically going to have access to the discretionary grant window. You need to register as a DG grant applicant, okay? So you need to go and click on the link. You need to go and click on register. And then there are 9 questions for you to answer. You can just, whilst I'm ticking, you can also just maybe read the question. It's asking about the BE certificate. You need to then select the expiry date. You need to also do the expiry date for the tax of clearance. And then do you confirm that the directors or members do not have a relationship or a friend person employed by SASITA?
Adele?
On that, yes, Linda.
Very important colleagues, I am not trying to land myself in jail. So if any of you are related to me and I don't know about it, please do declare. And if you've got anyone, any family friend or anything at the SASITA, it does not exclude you from receiving the grants, but it is to make sure that the process is not tainted, so that if, for example, when we are evaluating an application belonging to you and you have declared that you know me, I will recuse myself or will evaluate to see, the risk. It's all just to make sure that we remain objective and unbiased when evaluating applications. Adele?
Thank you. So if you do know Linda without her knowledge, you need to go and click on no, and then in the text box at number 9, you need to then state who you are related to. Okay. I'm just closing my window a little bit so that I can click on the save and proceed button. Once I've clicked on save and proceed, you are now prompted to complete your personal details. So I am just going to create some dummy data because I am currently on the test site. Immediately you will see that if I type in the ID number and it is not a valid RSA number, the system will prompt me to go and add an alternative number because this is not a valid SA number. So my first name for today is going to be, let's not use test. Let's use Madonna.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do not know what is her surname. And you will see that here is, so if you do have a foreign number, you can go and select the passport number from the drop down below. You need to complete your telephone number, your cell number, and most importantly, all your communication will be sent via this email address that you are typing in. So please ensure that when you type in the email address that it is current, it's valid, and it is spelled correctly. Because if it's not spelled correctly, you will not receive the communication that is sent via the system. You need to include your your physical address line 1, 2, and 3. And you will see that the municipality, the urban, rural, and the province is currently grayed out. Because this is dependent on the code that is going to be typed in from the physical code. Automatically, it will then update according to the municipality, the urban, rural, as well as the province. Okay, so this is your first screen that you need to capture. After you have captured all the information, you need to go and click on the button Save and Proceed. You will then be navigated to this screen where you need to go and select the type of organization. For this demo, I'm just going to use NGO. And you now need to type in your SDL number. Let me take another one. Sorry, I'm just quickly going to take another one. That one is already taken.
Shabalala, please switch your video off. We don't want to see things that we don't need to see. Sharp. So colleagues, as I was indicating to you that you need to have your SDL number handy. Obviously, for testing purposes, some preparation was required to do so that we can have some dummy companies that we can demonstrate with.
Okay.
Okay,
so I've typed in the SDL number, and you will see that the system is going to pick it up. In order for you to select it, you please need to go and click on the name. Once you have then selected the company, it will turn green, and then you need to go and hit the select button. Okay. This was the NGO. After you have done that, you need to go and select. Yes, Linda?
Can we use either a legal or private security, primarily because the requirements are vastly different for NGOs, and I wouldn't want to leave the bigger group behind things.
Sure. You need to select the financial year, which is already defaulting to one option. And then I'm duly authorized to apply for this grant. And you need to then upload your proof of delegation of authority. You please need to go and direct to the folder where you have all your documentation ready, so that you then can just maybe ease of reference, have all the documents ready, and then just upload as you go along. For the file names that you are going to upload, like for instance, the one that I've just uploaded now, please do not use any special characters in your file name extension. For example, delegation of authority at 2022 hashtag. So the system does not upload a file name with any special characters. So please just ensure, if you are unable to upload, please just make sure that you remove any special characters from your file name. Once the system has then acknowledged your upload, you will see that it turned green, and then you also then need to click on the understanding of this application, and then you need to go and click on the next button, whereby you will then be able, and there was a question with regards to upload a document. Am I able to remove it or replace it? And you will see that there is the remove button. So if by mistake you have uploaded the incorrect delegation of authority document, you can select the line and you can remove the document that has been uploaded. Just for testing purposes, I'm then going to finalize my registration. And then an automated email will be sent to the email that you have captured in your first step of application, whereby you will then receive your username and password. I just quickly want to go and demo that for you, so that you can see what type of username and password you can expect. And this is the email that has been generated a few minutes ago. You will see that this is the DG Stakeholder registration. My username was the passport that I've typed in, and it also displays the password that is to be used, and also the company that I'm linked to. So just to continue with the process, I now need to go back to the system and use the username and password to finalize my application. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to select or type in my username and password. I am going to click on login. And
can we pause for a second?
Yes, I'm going to pause, Linda.
Please just log out.
Sure. do you want to do the forgot password functionality?
Please.
Okay, sure. Colleagues, for those who have already registered last year for the funding windows, you do not have to register again. If you have forgotten your password, like life happens, and we do get older each and every year, we tend to forget. So there will be a forgot password functionality. You can click on the forgot password functionality. The system is going to prompt you to type in your ID number. After you have typed in your ID number, you will click this button, request password, and then the system will send you an email similar than the one that I am currently displaying now. It will say Indicium password recovery, and it will state what is your current username. And it will also give you this very long and complicated new temporary password. So there could be one or two possible reasons for you not to receive this temporary password. Number one could be is that when you registered last year, you have used a different email address that you are currently using, or you can also then, the second reason why you also could not maybe get the notification is due to this email sitting either in your junk or in your spam folder. So please make sure that if your password, if your email has changed, please just contact SASITA so that they can update your password on the system, and then you can follow the same route. And also then just check your spam or your spam or junk. Maybe the email is sitting in that folder. Okay, so how to change your password? You need to copy this password and then paste it into the section here, whereby you will then be able to type in your username and your password. You paste your password in this section. You go and click on login, and then you need to then modify a new password that is going to be created by yourself. And please do not share your new password with anyone. So I just quickly want to go back to my login. So if you do not receive that email address, please just inquire with SASITA if the email address on the system is still valid. If not, it will be updated. Okay, so currently I am on the DG portal, and you will see that there is a tab called DG. Please go and click on DG.
Sorry, Ada.
Yes, Linda, you are more than welcome.
Colleagues, please just make sure that the profile you select when you're logging in is the one that says Stakeholder Capture or Discretionary Grants. There we go, there at the top. So you don't use the same profile that you use to submit your WSP. It must say Discretionary Grants in order for you to see this window. We get a number of queries where I can't see this DG. That's where you're going wrong. Thank you, Adele.
Thank you, Linda. Once you then clicked on DG, you need to go and click on organization. And I have received a lot of queries to say that once they click on organization, nothing is displaying. So colleagues, just make sure that you click on the search button. And once you click on search, the company that you are linked to will then display.
Sorry, Adele.
No problem.
It's all the microphones that are on. Silega.
No, that's fine. Okay, let me proceed. So colleagues, when you are going to click on organization, the screen is going to be blank. But once you click on search, the company that you are linked to will display in this column below. You will see that all of these buttons are currently grayed out. So please go and select the line. Once it is selected, it will turn green. And then you need to go and click on the magnifying glass just underneath action.
1 second, please. Sorry, are we able to go back?
Yes,
I've been getting a lot of questions, and even today one was posted. Someone was asking, the system is asking for the application number, where do I get it? That's when I said you don't need to fill in all 4 of these fields for everyone's benefit. Any one of those 4 fields you can just put in. And remember, if you are typing in, for example, the legal name and the trade name, and you have misspelled it or you have spelled it differently than when you registered, it's not going to find the document. The easiest way, as Adele is pointing out, you just come in here and click on search, and it is going to show you all the companies that are registered to your name. This is useful for the SDFs who are representing multiple companies. So when you click on here, it will show everyone that you are registered against. Then you select that one, and Adele, you can proceed. You select there, it comes green. You click on the magnifying glass, and then you proceed. In here, just a second, you've got to select that in business. If you are on your CPC, this is where you must check against your CIPC. Please open the drop down for me, Adele.
There you go.
Yes. If you have been blacklisted by the National Treasury, obviously we cannot do business with you. If your CIPC registration says your company has been deregistered, we cannot do business with you. If it says deregistration in progress, we cannot do business with you. So make sure that you are submitting your annual returns to the CIPC. Very important, make sure that it says you're in business, because if it says anything other than in business, we are unable to give you any grant. Okay, and then on the menu that is on your left, the sequencing of this does not necessarily matter. In fact, you will go, you can go any way, this way and that way, as long as it gets done. The last 2, the last 4, you do not need to worry about. The DG compliance, the DG approval, the funding agreement, and the last 4, don't worry about those. So it's only the ones that are above. Adele?
Thank you, Linda. So once you have then selected your business status, please go and click on the Save button. You will see that there's a Save button at the bottom. And then once you have successfully saved, the record will then show as successful. Let me go to the
Just 1 second, Adele. Just scroll down a little bit. Can you see latest WSP status? Can you see this company has not submitted a WSP and therefore it is blank? So those who have submitted, you will see it. It will say submitted, or it'll say created, or it'll say accepted. That's also how the system checks for these things. But as I indicated, we will only evaluate the WSP status from the 2nd of May onwards. Adele?
Thank you, Linda. Okay, colleagues, I'm going to go to the next step, which is then our compliance and discretionary grant uploads. Here you will be prompted to upload your supporting documentation, and as mentioned, please have all of these documents ready so that you are then able to upload with a smooth sailing. In order to do that, please go and select the funding window period. You do not have to type in a comment unless you want to explain something to SACITA. And also here, it explains what type of format file are able to be uploaded. It can be either PDF or TIFF or a JPEG or NPG format. So if you do have any other format that you are going to upload, you will not be able to succeed. Okay. So this is my BE certificate. I'm going to wait until it turns green, and then I'm going to click on the upload button. Once I have uploaded, you will see that the the document type as well as the file will be uploaded and viewed in this section. And once again, there was a question on how can we remove or replace, and you can do that by purely clicking on the table, and then you will be able to then update the document. So the next one that I'm going to upload is the CIPC. I'm going to follow the same route. I need to select the financial year. Wait till it turns green, and then you click on the upload button.
And please do not forget, I'm sorry, Ada, that the documents, you must scan them in doubles. So if you are doing your COID, well, COID, we just need one this time around. For example, when you are coming to your BE certificate, scan yours and that of the training provider and upload them as one document. Please don't forget that. Yes, Ada?
Thank you. I'm just continuing with the uploads. So currently I'm on the delegation of authority.
Okay, I see one is there for the declaration of interest. On the declaration of interest, somebody was asking about the SBD form. No, it's not necessarily the SBD form. I know some use that, but effectively, we just want a letter that's on your letterhead that says, we, the directors or owners of company ABC, have no relationship with anyone who works at SASITA or is a member of the SASITA board. That is just you declaring that you don't know us. There's no financial interest or whatnot. So it's not necessarily the SBD form. And that is required there. Tax clearance, remember it's your tax clearance and the tax clearance of your provider. If you are selecting 4 different programs from 4 different providers, then you owe me 5 tax clearances. The pivotal training plan, this is where you upload it. And as I indicated, the pivotal training plan cannot be submitted after the 14th of April. So if you're going the pivotal training plan route, make sure that it is done now and you upload it here. You cannot submit it afterwards. So after the 14th of April, if it's not here and by the 30th of April, you have not submitted your WSP either, your application will be disqualified.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. So you will see that I have selected all the documents to be uploaded as per the drop-down arrow. Maybe, Linda, if other documentation is also specified to be uploaded, maybe you can just apply some guidance on what other documents can also be uploaded.
Okay, I think there was a question, for example, the gentleman, okay, that was for bursaries, but it could be something that talks to why a different document is uploaded than what is actually required. You can also proactively upload your assessor registrations. You can also upload your moderation registrations. It could be, for example, we keep this option open. For example, when we are looking at things like the non-pivotal window, we'll say then upload your proposal there. If, for example, you are applying for people with disabilities and you want to make sure that we are clear, you can attach the proof of disability there so that you know the grant that you are applying for, because remember there's little supplements that we provide for people with disabilities. So any document that you feel will assist your application, this is where I recommend you upload it, because if it is not part of the application, cannot be submitted later. And I need to repeat that. The grant evaluation process, we follow the tender evaluation system. So if you upload an expired BE certificate, when we evaluate, we'll say it has expired. We're not going to call you to say, oh, do you know that it has expired? Please give us a new one. Once it's invalid, you've missed the boat, you get disqualified, try again next year. So very, very important. Anything that you think will assist your application, please provide them. For example, if you have started the inter-SETA transfer process and you've got the signed IST-01 form signed by, let's say for the example where there was someone who was saying, I'm in SETA 1, you upload the proof that SETA 1 has released you, SETA 19 has accepted you because it's not in this department, and then you attach it. Then when we are evaluating, instead of disqualifying you saying you're not registered, we will see, oh, at least this is in progress, and then consideration will be made for it. Maybe we can say you will get your grants, we'll set aside the grants, but we'll only give you the award letter once the process has been finalized. So anything that can assist your application. Adele?
Thank you, Linda. So colleagues, I'm going to go to the next step, which is then our actual discretionary grant forms. Once again, you need to please select the funding window period. As mentioned, there could be a second window which is going to open. So for this application, you need to select the funding window period, which is the selection that I've just added. And then you need to go and click on the create button. Okay.
Give me 1 second, please. I see there's a question from Ramazu. Please type in your questions on the text box so that we can have a good flow of the discussions. And I saw the question from Jennifer. Jennifer, this is how you do it. You were asking, so if you had submitted previously, when you go to the grant forms, you select the new financial year and it will then give you a fresh set of forms. This also talks to, there was a question previously, someone who was asking for application forms. I'm hoping that they are following why we do not have application forms per se. These are the forms that we have. The entire process serves the purpose of the application form. Adele?
Thank you, Linda. So colleagues, once you have selected the financial year and you have clicked on the create button, you see that the information for this current funding window is displaying in this section. You will see that all the buttons are grayed out. Please select the line, it will turn green, and then thereafter you will see that the buttons on top is then editable. Okay, so once you have selected the funding window period, you have created forms. Sorry, Linda, you want to ask something?
Yeah, I just wanted to explain, because I know quite a number of questions come through. Some have asked, what if even today someone was saying, I've submitted an application, but I did not highlight the unit standard. How can I correct that? You go in here, discretionary grant forms, you click on the edit button. The edit button is then going to change your status back to created. Okay, this one is still being created. So yeah, it would read here submitted, and then you change it to created, and then it will enable you to edit the application form. And yeah, you can close that. And the middle button, print DG application form, once you have submitted your application right through to the end, and this is a useful function where you can just go and print for your own copy, similar to how you print the WSP. When you say print DG application, it's going to download a summary of your application for your own records. But for now, we are still completing the forms. You can go on there. Please, let's type in the questions so that we try and move with everyone. The system will compel you to go through all the eight grant types that are available. Now remember, there are those restrictions. If you are not paying levies, you can only apply for a total of 2 grants. So be careful in terms of which one you go for. Remember when I mentioned you can either go for learnerships or skills programs, you can't apply for all. So, but the system will force you to go through, and if you do not need that grant or you're not intending to apply for it, you must go there and say, I do not want this grant. We specifically make the system take you through all 8 because you cannot submit more than one application per levy number. So right now, this one is for employed bursaries. Go on, Adele.
Thank you very much. Do you want me to complete this one, Linda, or shall I tick?
Let's do one bursary and maybe one learnership and one will.
Sure. So colleagues, how did I get to this page? You will see that these are the 8 currently opened windows. So I'm going to select the first one, which is going to be bursaries. I'm going to complete all of the forms, all the fields. As you can see that these are the required fields. So the first one is the field of study. Let's say, for instance, it is going to be law. The duration is going to be 18 months. And the name of the training institution, you please need to type it in. And then also the amount per person is also going to be typed in by yourself. Let's say 40,000. And then we're going to have one applicant on Eastern Cape and one in the Northern Cape. Okay.
Just a second there. Please remember, when you're entering the unit amount per person, please don't forget our limit for this particular one, for example, is 55,000. So if you're wanting to do EMBA with Gibbs and it is 88,000 and you're putting in 88,000, that will be disqualified. So limit to what is in the policy, please. And we are going to be paying a lot more attention to the geographic distribution of grants. We are finding that our grants are primarily concentrated in 1 or 2 provinces, and therefore we are going to start, for example, if you're applying from the Northern Cape, definitely that will be given preference over someone in Gauteng for argument's sake. Remember, we are competing for a very small number of grants that are available, and our mandate is to ensure that we reach all corners of South Africa. So please do as much as you can indicate the different provinces, particularly if you are applying from a head office point of view. For example, Fidelity is based here in Gauteng, but they would apply for all their branches countrywide. Split this information so that we can be guided. So if we cannot give you all the grants that you ask for, we can simply say, okay, we are going to give you your Northern Cape and your Northwest. And then that's how we move. Thank you, Adele. And there at the bottom, there is that block that says, I do not wish to apply for bursaries employed. I understand that by ticking this box, I cannot submit a separate application for this grant during this funding window. You're not going to tick it because you are applying for this particular grant. If you click on add, you will see, click there, Adele, for us, please. It will then show you what you have. There we go. Can you see there at the bottom, it will say there's law. And another question we often get is, what if I want to apply? So you got one learner that's doing law, one in psychology, one in whatever. After you click add, you scroll back up, you repeat the process, and you just keep clicking on add. Eric Chipu, please type in your question. I'm noting, I'm going to be answering questions as we move, but we're not going to take verbal questions. So now there's something else in criminology, and there is that one learner. You click on add. Can you see it added another row? So that's how you keep on adding different programs on the screen and every other screen that we're going to be coming to. So if you want that type of learnership and that type of learnership, that's where we're going to actually come out at. Thank you, Adele. I think we can move to the next grant type.
Thank you, Linda. Sorry, Linda.
I think you wanted to say the same thing. If you realize that you've added one and you want to remove, if you highlight that one, you can either edit you said one learner and now you want to make it 2 learners, or 0 learners, or whatever the situation is. You can use the edit button, or you can remove, and we will see how you will only have one of those remaining. And then you go back to discretionary grant forms. Notice that red button, and until it is no longer green, you are unable to submit.
Yeah. So if I'm going to take a shortcut and I'm going to click on submit discretionary grant, it will tell you that a range of certain fields are not yet completed. So let me move over to the next one, learnership employed. You said that we can apply for this one, Linda?
Let's apply for unemployed, not this one.
Okay. So if
I see the question.
Apply, yeah. Sorry, Linda. There's a question.
Sorry. Proceed with this one. I'll answer the question when you're done.
Okay. So before, because I'm not going to apply for this specific program, please go and make use of the tick box and then click on the save button. Okay.
Lovely. The question from Ramazi is, do you have to attach assessor and moderator and CV? No, you do not. No, you do not. It's only the documents that are listed on the advert that you must attach at this point in time. Okay. So you select, I'm with you now, Adele, in terms of the unemployed learnerships. You put in that, you put the registration number, you select, it's a level 8, test 1, you put the accreditation, you put the assessor registration, moderator registration, and let us add here, okay, this is level 8, maybe change it to level 3, Adele. Just so that I can make this point. Remember, I had mentioned that the grant here is 16,000 for training, and then it's 24,000 for stipends. So you put here the combined total of 40,000. There we go.
Okay, I'm going to click on, I'm going to add one learner for Northwest, and then I'm going to click on the add button.
Okay, here is something that I want to stress. Because we are restricting grants and the number of projects that we're going to be having, please give due consideration to what you want to apply for. Do not apply for multiple projects and leave it to us to decide. Think carefully which one learnership project do you want and apply for that one learnership project. Because we're not going to give you this and that, especially if you are not paying levies or you are paying like maybe 800 rands or 2,000 or 5,000. The large companies that are contributing dozens of millions could probably be considered for multiple projects, but I am strongly discouraging you want 10 learners there, 5 learners there, 15 learners there, particularly if you're not paying any levies. Remember, if you're not paying levies, you can only go for either a learnership or a skills program. You cannot apply for both. So go back to the advert and look at the guidelines and be very clear. You can continue typing, Adele, while I'm talking, and be very clear in terms of what it is that you want to apply for, because you cannot have both, and do not leave it up to SASITA to decide which one you are going to get. Remember, again, if you're wanting to select the specialist or the electronic installation, your learners must already have GSO. So it's not going to be you have applied and we've given you the specialist only for you to find that you don't have the specialist and like, oh, okay, sorry, can I change that to GSO? We take those grants back and we give to the others. So let's be very, very careful around that. As I'm talking, Adele is going, remember I was mentioning that the system is going to ask you to submit all the forms, but we said in this instance, we only applied for a bursary and a learnership, and that's it. So you just go and say no, 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 no. Go back to the forms. Let's go back to the main page. See if it is still red. It means there's still some documents that have not been gone through. I think it's the declaration now that we are going to complete.
Yes.
You go to the declaration. You say, make sure you select the correct financial year. And here, these are very important questions that you must please read and answer truthfully. Do you or any person connected with the application have any relationship, blah, 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 blah? You say yes or no. There's a drop down there. Hopefully it's a no. Preference is always given to those who will be taking a minimum of the 30 learners, absorbing them. And by absorbing, we don't mean employ them in your company. For example, you can put them on learnerships, you can put them on internships, you can refer them, blah, 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 blah. There is also that. So be sure that you are making sure that there's no conflict of interest. That is really what we are looking for. Once you've read that and you tick that, you click on save. Then if you go back to the discretionary grant forms, why is it still red? Did we miss any type? Just click and then let's see if it's going to tell us why.
I remember it will
Oh,
remind it until you have submitted, yes.
Okay, perfect. Until you see this discretionary grant status submitted, you have not submitted. And you will get an email with your submission number. Adele, please project the email that would have been issued for this one.
Sure, let me just quickly open it. Sorry, I'm just quickly searching for in my junk.
Okay. All right. So until you actually see that it says submitted, so you get 2 reference numbers during the lifespan of your application. One is the application number, which assists you if you maybe start and apply for employed bursaries, and when you start on learnerships, you realize there's some information that you don't have, for example, the assessor registration numbers, etc. We don't need the assessor registration document, but at least the registration number must be present in the application. So if you realize, oops, I don't have this, and you want to continue later, remember after every screen, if you click on save, when you exit, it's going to have an application number, which is just for us really to sort of be able to pick up if you are needing assistance and we are logging in. Otherwise, you must get a submitted number, and it's a DG specific number. Let's demonstrate, Adele, if we want to edit. Let's say you've submitted there and you realize that I actually want to add another type of grant. Can you see the status is submitted? If you change it to created, it makes your application editable. Remember, the risk with changing it back to created, you are literally withdrawing your application, and until you resubmit it, it is not received. So remember, if you reverse the status, you must remember to actually finally submit. There's something that I usually do on the closing date or on the day before the closing date, but always on the closing date. I go onto the system and I have a list of everyone who has attempted to apply, and everything is still on created status, and I will send you an email with Ella, Mamela, your application is still on created status. If you intended to make an application, please know that this application has not been received. I usually do this on the last day, just as a courtesy, usually around the time we knock off so that you can fix it in the evening or something, because I also don't want to send it in the morning whereas you're still busy submitting. But it's just a courtesy email to say, listen, I see your effort, but you did not actually submit, just so that people are not sitting at home thinking they have submitted. If you have a look now, when you get back on here, the discretionary grant status, it is now submitted, and there is your application number, DG22F. That is your application number. That is not your submission number, right? Let's go on. We don't want to see things we don't want to see. Okay. This is if you go and print your application, this is what your application will look like for your records. Can you see those 2 bursaries that we applied for? They are there. And there's the law and criminology, yeah. Let's move on. There's no unemployed bursaries, blah, 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 blah. All the ones where you were clicking, I don't want this grant, I don't want this grant, I don't want this grant. Sure. And that's how your application is going to look. So if you can go and download it, you can save it on your computer for your own records. That is pretty much how you submit your application. We can spend the next few minutes if there are specific questions around the system. Let's see, does the application number change every year? Absolutely. Every time you submit an application, it's a unique number that is generated. So even in a financial year, if you are applying for all the windows, you'll get a different application number. So it's unique for each application that has been submitted. Do we have any questions that you would like to ask on the system in terms of how to apply? I am going to show you where you can get the manual in case you joined us late. You go on to sasita.org. sasita.org.za. The landing page will take you to the discretionary grant. You click here to find all the documents that you need. As indicated earlier, all these documents serve one purpose or the other towards the application. So make sure that you are very, very clear in terms of what needs to be done. As you can see in this time, you use a manual. You go there, you download the manual. The manual has all the screens that we've taken you through right from the beginning. Remember, we showed you, you must first go register, even if you're an SDF. So it tells you exactly where you start. Remember, we said this information is on our website right there at the top. You go to login, and that's where you start. So if you're not starting there, that's where the problem usually is. There's your manual. It's got every single screen. Can you see all the things that we have spoken about? It'll take you step by step. And if you skip this step and go to the next one, you will encounter challenges. So follow all the steps. Follow all the steps, Every single thing that Adele has been demonstrating, we have done a screen grab for you so that you can follow. You do all of that, you do all of that, you do all the forms, all the forms, all the forms, all the forms, all the forms keep coming, keep coming. On this window, I think we had opened all the grant types just for demonstration purposes and show that until, if it is red, it's not submitted. And we tried some examples to click there just to show you that a return error will tell you what has not been completed so that you can go and complete it. And that's how it goes. That's how it goes. The completing the DG funding agreement, we have not yet moved to this platform, but let us see how this year goes by, because we are finding that different people are at different stages of learning how to use the system, and we have those. We need to make sure that we are coming together. Okay, see, this is the email that Adele is projecting. It says, dear stakeholder, this says to acknowledge receipt of your application. Until you get something that says we have received it, we have not received it, with the submission number DG that. And there we go. There we go. So until you get this email, your application has not been submitted. Let me see the questions, a couple of questions. NGOs without an SDL, how do you register as employer on the system? Do you have to file the WSP? No, you don't have to file a WSP. You are not in our sector. If you check the guidelines attached there on the website, you will see exactly what I mean. In terms of the SDL, use your NPO number that is issued by Social Development. If the SDF wants to upload the company already linked on mandatory grants, must he register again and get new login details? You must register again, but you do not get new login details. So you register. Let me show you. If you go in there, you go there and you click on register, and then the same password that you have will be used. What does happen is when you log in, you will have a listing of all the profiles, the roles that you have. Make sure you select this one, Stakeholder Capturer DG. So you will have another one that says SDF. I don't know what it's called for the mandatory grants, but you must go for the one that says discretionary. That's the correct one. So to recap, you go back. You first register here, and it takes you through as per the manual. And once it's done, the same password, username and password that you use, you also use. And there we go. You must just select the correct. These are the roles that I have because of what I do for SASITA, and that's what I can access. But if I'm wanting to submit an application, I must log on here, although I've got the DG manager that overrides everything. But when logged in as myself, as a discretionary grant manager, I'm unable to edit your applications, blah, 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 blah. In here, this profile, I have it because as part of the demonstration, I have registered so that we can also be testing on the system that everyone can go through. I think we managed to finish with a few minutes to spare today. No matter where do you get an SDL? SDL is you will find it on your EMP 103 document issued by the receiver of revenue. If you cannot locate that, every month you have to file with SARS and pay for your pay as you earn and your UIF, etc. One of those numbers is your SDL. It's listed on your EMP 201. So every month you find with the receiver, that's where you get the number. In the absence of any further questions, thank you so much for setting aside the time. It's a quite lengthy process, and we hope that it is worth the time that you have invested in it. My one plea for everyone, please submit your applications today, tomorrow. After the end of this week, you will be chattering on very risky territory. I had indicated the contact details. This is where you send your queries, DG, and this information is listed on the advert, so you don't need to frantically take it down. Send us an email, and if you are getting stuck, send us a screen grab of where you are getting stuck. If it's not addressed in the manual, then you can send us an email. call us, as I've indicated though. As you can see, it takes about 45 minutes to go through step by step. Not all the callers will not be able to get to all the callers just because of the nature of the work. This is precisely why we have done the user manual, to try and not have everyone calling for assistance. Rather, we are pushing the self-service option. So that those would be the key things that I wanted to leave everyone with. Thank you so much for attending. We will publish these slides that we just shared, and I know there was a colleague that was asking in terms of eligibility of these grants, who can apply. There was a long talk that we had over there, but all of these slides are going to be posted, and this is where we are going to post them. On the SASITA website. If you go to SASITA website, you click here to read. The slides will join here under the bursary policy. So we will not be emailing the slides because we definitely would miss one or two people. We don't want to assume that risk. We will publish them. Anyone who needs them, you can download them as with any other document. Remember, if you're choosing to go the pivotal plan route, that is due on the 14th of February of April, you cannot submit it after the 14th of February. So very important. Use the policy, use the guidelines, good people. The guidelines show you nicely if you are this type of company, do you have to submit those types of documents? What requirements apply to you, what requirements don't apply to you, etc., etc. It's there for you. And very important, on the advert, we have given you the programs in detail, what needs to be, and the number of grants that are available. Please be guided by these grants. Unemployed learnerships, we've got up to 1,000 for GSO, so relatively, yes, okay. And I always discourage, please do not apply for 100 grants when you don't have like an army of 200 to support these learners. Be reasonable, be realistic in terms of your capacity, so that we don't have to play these games. You apply for 100 and hoping to get 20. If 20 is what you need, apply for 20 and we will see what we can do. In terms of electronic security, we only have 100 grants. So if you're applying for electronic security and you're applying for 200, where is the 200 going to come from? Limited to what is on the advert. Specialists, there's only 200 available for the entire sector. So you cannot apply for 200 and you are one company, knowing that there is thousands of security companies that, you know, so these things are here to assist and guide you where you need to go. And if you are, for example, a non-levy paying company, remember you can't apply for both types of learnerships, unemployed and employed. If you had to take your pick, look at this and you see, okay, in terms of employed, there's only 100 grants available there's only 100 grants available for each GSO. Actually, your chances are better if you were to go for unemployed people, because there's 1,000 grants there. Because here we're going to be prioritized those who are paying levies. Once everyone who actually pays levies has been supported, then we will consider the ones who are not paying. So save yourself a lot of time and energy by understanding the requirements and only zoom in on the things that you have a very good chance of actually being successful on. Remember, if you've applied for unemployed learnerships and you're not paying levies, skip learnerships, skip skills programs, and then you move to either internships or TVET. When it comes to skills programs, we have given you the unit standards. So this information is what must be reflected in the application. So you cannot have anything else other than what has been indicated. If you're wanting the control room, it comes pre-packaged with these 4 unit standards. So if you apply for 3, it's no longer the same program that is being advertised and will be disqualified. If you're applying for 5, it's no longer the same program and it will be disqualified. These are the little things that have applications end up being rejected, just non-compliance to the application requirements. If this is the program that you want, we're only funding it if it is coming from this unit standard, so limited to that. If you know you're a CPF, you're wanting to go for here, there's only 20 grants available. No need to apply for 200 because there's only 20 that are available. Remember, candidacy is only available to law firms, and the law firms must be paying levies to SETA 19. Anyone else cannot. We have a very special need and we give preference, and these will even eat up here if we get more in terms of those who look at intellectual property or trademark law. We want to prioritize that. Internships, we've got up to 600 for the sector, not bad. But if you notice that, yeah, this is another thing. You find that someone will say, I want a TVET placement grant. There's only 100 that are available. Again, we prioritize levy payers. You have a better chance of getting an intern that has any other qualification than zooming in on someone that's got a TVET qualification, well, is looking for a TVET qualification for that 18 months. So I'm just giving you some tips in terms of how to be strategic with your application. As I said, you can only apply for either internship or TVET. So if it was me making the application, I would rather go for internships because, quite frankly, my chances are better there, because here you are competing with everyone who's paying levies. So first we need to support the ones who are paying levies and something that was pointed out to me during a call that I actually had not particularly highlighted here on the workplace skills plan. You must have submitted a WSP for the year that ended on Thursday and must submit for the new year. So that is a very important nuance in the application process. WSP for last year and for this year. Yeah, I think those are the tips. Best of luck with your application. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I think would be the right way. Oh, do we have some questions? No matter where do you get an SDL? Yeah, I've indicated you get it from the EMP 201. Does the number of grants represent the number of companies? No. It's the number of actual grants. So when we're saying there's 200 grants, it means 200 people. It can be 10 at that company, 5 at that company, 1 at that company, 7, and all of them added, it will cover 200 individuals. So the number of grants, think of them as the number of people that will be supported.